Hey, welcome to our fourth session on advanced psychoproctology for beginners, the diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of assholery. Why do I call it an advanced course for beginners? A few reasons. First, though you've probably dealt with your share of buttheads, you may not have gotten beyond the intuitive definition of them as anyone you butt heads with. Second, we're trying to advance beyond our current analysis because buttheading is on the rise. People getting up on their high horses and escalating the butthead on butthead battles, getting off on the self-affirmation, feeling of absolute certainty that they're the good guys. Third, because I affirm myself by fancying that I do advanced psychoproctology, like I'm one of the good guys, which is as good an opening as any for what I want to talk about today, the human need for affirmation and how to manage it. Here, I'll get personal about what's going on with you. It may get a little uncomfortable for reasons I'll explain. Of course, I don't know you, but I study the human condition. I'm inviting you to apply something fundamental about us humans to your personal experience. It'll come in handy in dealing with assholes. To roll trolls, stump Trumpists, and deal with assholes in general, you're going to need firm footing or you'll get tripped up. You'll have to know precisely what you're fighting for. If your footing is in you needing affirmation as the good guy and them as the bad guys, assholes will robotically tangle you up in their I know you are, but what am I bullpucky. You really have to come to terms with this universal human need for affirmation if you're going to succeed in standing your ground with them. Here you are, trying to figure out what to say to Trumpists and other narcissists and cultists, even family members and friends. Maybe you don't feel smart, knowledgeable, or articulate enough to get your point across. I'm saying if you diagnose them accurately and get clear and confident on the root problem with what they're doing, you don't need to be smart, knowledgeable, or articulate to maximize your influence on them. With Trump's second term soon upon us, I wish we'd all been thinking our way through what's really up with assholes decades ago. Decades earlier than I started thinking about it 30 years ago. Still, we're right on time for dealing with future assholery, which I wager will be a major problem. It's been a problem all along, and it's only going to get worse. And I think the problem is our management of self-affirmation, which, as I say, is a touchy subject. When I look at humans, including my own human self, I see a species that needs a lot of affirmation, stress reduction, and confidence boosting just to stay calm. To survive, hummingbirds need nectar every 15 minutes. I think of us like that about affirmation. We're a thirsty, needy species. We're so thirsty and needy that we don't want to notice that we are. Noticing that you're thirsty is not thirst quenching. It's not affirming to admit you crave affirmation. Ego is a dirty word. Think about it. Saying you want a partner for sex isn't as embarrassing as saying you want a partner so you have a reliable source of affirmation. But isn't that part of it? Isn't loneliness and the quest for love at least in part a quest for affirmation? I mean, there's libido, right? But there's also libigo, people dating and partnering for the ego affirmation of feeling like you belong, that at least someone cool loves you, a mutual affirmation society. The human need for affirmation is the elephant in the room. We tend to talk like egotism is beneath us. Sure, we'll gossip about other people's egotism as though it's beneath us. Gossip is a great source of affirmation, but accusing someone of being egotistical is an extremely touchy business. Them's fighting words. They'll likely accuse you right back. So you try to avoid ego-on-ego battles, and when you find yourself in one, it tends to spin out of control fast, like toddlers flailing pathetically. I know you're egotistical, but what am I? I've written over 1,000 articles for Psychology Today and paid attention to what gets views on that site. I swear the #1 hits are how to rekindle the spark of affirmation in your marriage and how to diagnose your partner as a narcissist. Our need for affirmation is so taboo that we don't want to notice the affirmation we become dependent upon. If you've got a good job and a supportive partner, you'll tend to take them for granted. But you know that surge of pain and heartbreak you get if you lose them? That's you suddenly exposed to how much you depended on them for affirmation. And isn't it ironic? You feel most independent when you're well supported by affirmation you can ignore, and most dependent when you've lost that affirmation. You don't miss your water till your well runs dry. At the absolute extreme, you get assholes and cults like Trumpism, just the latest epidemic of boundless mutual self-affirmation, a giant, proud, blind circle jerk of self-deification. Trumpists can't get enough, and they'll take it by any means possible. Reality, integrity, none of that matters. They're jacking off to nothing more than jacking themselves up on self-affirmation, which is all Trump ran on. Whatever happens to that circle jerk, there will be many copycats from now on. Why are humans so needy? Language was my answer in the last session. Any species with language would be intensely anxious and in constant need of reassurance. Think about it. Take that in and make it personal for a second, and then recognize that it's not personal. It's universal to us humans. Remember a time when you couldn't get to sleep, worrying around in circles, anxious about past mistakes and future risks, wondering if you took a wrong turn, processing your losses, fearing future losses, cycling your options, none of them great. Think of what a clusterflux we live in. All the people you rely on, like-minded in that they too have nights like that, with lots of options, which makes them unreliable. They could have a change of heart or just want to self-affirm at your expense. Meanwhile, your houseplants and pets are sleeping away, unable to process their lives the way you do. They can't foresee their own deaths. They aren't struggling to figure out how and where to throw all into life, knowing they'll be thrown out. The human condition makes for a rougher ride than other critters experience. Language isn't just how we talk. It's how we think, conceive, imagine, scare, and reassure ourselves. We're the only species here on Earth that can imagine anything with our worded thoughts and communication. And given technology, we're exposed to way too much world, way too many folks out there getting off on what jerks other people are. People like you. As a result, we're all confidence impaired. I'd expect as much from intelligent life anywhere in the universe. Intelligence here meaning language using. Aliens with language and technology would be overwhelmed, struggling like us to keep their shit together. It's enough to fry your brain and potentially the human species. I made an optimistic theology about that too. I call it R&Dism, here posed as a children's story. Psychoproctology's prevention question is how to exercise our need for affirmation without it getting out of hand. How to prevent the kind of absolutist affirmation cults we see in Trumpism and in other religious, spiritual, philosophical, and political cults throughout history. So let's dig into what I'll call egonomics, the supply of and demand for ego boosts, in other words, affirmation. Politics is the allocation of finite power in a world of infinite demand. Economics is the allocation of finite resources in a world of infinite demand. Egonomics is the allocation of finite affirmations or ego boosts in a world of infinite demand. Is the demand for affirmation infinite? In a way it is, or at least think of it this way. It's nice to feel okay, but nicer to feel exceptional. We'll tend to take whatever affirmation we can get, just like we'll take whatever money we can get. Extra affirmation is welcome. We might need it for future setbacks, saving for a rainy day. More is better. Is the supply of affirmation finite? Can't we all just feel good about ourselves? That's been tried a lot, not with much success. God loves us all equally isn't as compelling an argument as God loves our kind best. We want to feel exceptional, so we cooperate through affirmation of belonging to the good guy clan, and we compete through the affirmation of not belonging to the bad guy clan. One man's affirmation is another man's buzzkill. Economists say follow the money. Money talks, nobody walks. Nobody walks, meaning no one walks away from it, or as they also say, no one leaves money on the table. To understand and predict human behavior, I say follow the affirmation. Affirmation talks, nobody walks. Nobody leaves affirmation on the table. Of course, one can get used to the affirmation one gets, not expecting more. Humans are pretty good at adjusting to what's available. Not everyone has the opportunity to become addicted to ever more affirmation. You probably find the billionaire moneyaholics mind-boggling. Is there really no end to Trump or Musk's greed? Obviously, plenty of us aren't that insatiable, though who knows, if you had tapped into an affirmation goldmine, maybe you'd get insatiable too. Maybe I would too. Maybe not, but I wouldn't want to divide the world into greedy egomaniacs versus selfless, egoless, enlightened beings who have no need for affirmation. Rather, it's egomaniacs versus successful ego managers. Asshole prevention is about how to both exercise and manage our natural human need for affirmation. You can't manage what you deny doing. You can't budget if you deny that you're spending. You can't get your alcohol consumption under control if you deny that you're drinking. Asshole prevention is about managing one's ego, not denying it. I'm working on a product review on the many watering holes we go to for affirmation. It's a long list. We get it from religion and spirituality, but also from masturbation. We get it from dating, partnering, friends in high places, name dropping, work, shopping, owning, playing dress up, believing, memeing, liking and sharing, video games, sports, drugs and alcohol, charisma, fuckability, and capability, mad skills that make us feel like legends in our own minds. We get it from judging, scorning, gossiping, and complaining, since affirmation can be had by elevating ourselves and putting others down. We get it from scorning Trumpists. We get it from fiction, in which we proudly identify with the heroes and anti-heroes and their happily ever after endings. We get it on social media, where self-flattery is one of the biggest drivers. We get it from self-ornamentation with flags, crosses, and tats. We get it from lifestyles and identity in general. The reassuring affirmation of, well, at least I'm this, not that. And at least I've got this and not that. Trumpists get it, well, you know where they get it. Some of these forms of egotainment are lauded as virtuous, religion and spirituality, for example, while others are considered shameful, porn and drugs, for example. They all have their pros and cons. Here, I'm inviting to demote the highfalutin ones to an elevated status for all of them. Humans need affirmation. I'm not convinced masturbation is worse than religion, or vice versa. You may disagree, maybe because you rely on one form more than the other. I think of them all as egotainment. Whatever else you might get from them, they're mojo-boosting pit stops that we humans need, little chances to exercise our craving to reassure ourselves. Since we all need a lot of affirmation, I invite you to consider honoring the mediums in which you play them out safely. Here's a little exercise I did that you might find useful too. Make a chronological inventory timeline of the egotainment sources you've relied on over the decades. Try not to judge yourself for it. Be honest with yourself instead and notice how they drew you in. Again, to understand and predict human behavior, including your own, follow the affirmation. Notice when you added new sources or swapped one out for another. For example, I stopped partnering about 10 years ago after decades of relying on it for affirmation. How'd I pull that off? Aging, for sure. I'm glad my lack of appetite finally caught up with my lack of aptitude. I'm too mouthy for partnership, but my mouthiness also upstaged my quest for a partner. Ideas got more interesting and affirming. I play music too for affirmation. I'm not great, but I like to pretend I am. It's a list for you, just a source of insight, a way to apply the impersonal human predicament of egonomics to your personal life. But it's more than that too. It's how you become more invulnerably grounded in your dealings with Trumpists. I mean, if you accuse them of egomania, they'll accuse you right back. If you haven't come to terms with your natural standard issue, human egotism, you won't have a leg to stand on and they'll trip you up. My confidently fierce beef with Trumpists isn't that they're egomaniacs, but that they're ego mismanagers. they're really shitty at it. The confidence I'm finding in my dealings with Trumpists is a function of me not being touchy and in denial about my own ego. They can say, no, you're the one with the ego, all they want. I'm grounded in this. Damn straight, I've got ego. We all do. What, ego's beneath you, my fellow human jerk-off? Self-love is important, but get a fucking room. Don't let it go to your head, and don't circle jerk in the public square, treating government like your private little vanity project. It's pathetic, especially because these days you've got such convincing, easy, safe ways to jerk off. It's the golden fucking age of egotainment. But here you are taking complicated, boring infrastructure and pretending you're God in it. Why can't you just jerk off like normal folks? Why do you have to pretend you're some genius saint superhero master pundit of public policy? You have so many better options and you pick that? That's fucked up. That is my beef with them. Not that I disagree with their policies, not that their facts are wrong, and not that they're egotistical hypocrites. None of that stuff you feel you've got to bone up on if you're going to get off on your authority over theirs. Those are symptoms, not the root problem. Escapism is inescapable for us humans. We all need our mojo-boosting pit stops, engaging in what I call off-jerking, jerking off to fantasies of being the exceptionalist jerks we can't afford to be in real life. Imagining being heroic isn't just for kids. The root problem is that they're off-jerking where they need to be serious about reality. Hell, they could jerk off at Trump rallies for all I care. My beef is that they don't zip up after and get back to reality. They come away pretending they've just participated in something more real than reality. And why? Not because they think it is. They're not thinking. But because it gives them a boner to off-jerk to it. Why can't they be normal like folks who go to death metal concerts, dress up like badasses, bellowing along with badass lyrics, and then in the parking lot after, zipping up and getting back to reality? Hey, the live Google Meet is happening. We've got about 40 people so far. Email me if you want in. And keep me in mind for private psycho-strategic consulting. First half hour free. I'm taking new clients. I apply my practical approach to whatever's keeping you up worrying at night. Choices, doubts, ambivalences, and the basic cluster flux of being human. Of course, my specialty is strategizing ways to get your mind back from people you feel are jerking you around. Just email me and we can set that up. Again, thank you for wondering with me as we wobble our way through the cluster flux of being human. Onward through the fog.